live in a neighborhood where despair is piled much higher than the crumbling rooftops, and people do not really live. They just struggle daily to avoid dying. Home is nothing more than a small shack with a corrugated tin roof that you share with your mother and your younger sister. Your father is completely out of the picture, having become random collateral damage in a brutal neighborhood gang war he was never a part of. That leaves your mother as the sole anchor, keeping the entire household from falling completely apart. To guarantee that you and your sister have any real shot at a future, she grinds through 20 hours of grueling labor every single day until she is completely running on empty. You are the star student of the family, hitting the books with one singular goal: becoming a politician. Your ambition is not driven by a desire for personal power, but by a deep need to fix a broken system and finally provide your family with the basic dignity they deserve. However, the universe has a highly twisted sense of humor. Out of nowhere, your mother is struck down by a sudden major illness. The doctor at the local medical clinic flatly states that she requires immediate surgery. The price tag for the operation is 5,000 pesos. To some wealthy corporate suite living in the affluent part of town, 5,000 pesos is just pocket change dropped on a premium bottle of wine on a casual Tuesday night. But to someone in your position, that figure is completely astronomical. It represents an unreachable fortune and stands as an absolute brick wall between your mother's survival and a funeral. You desperately try to hit up the surrounding neighbors for a small loan, but inside this specific zip code, trying to find spare cash is like trying to squeeze droplets of blood directly out of a solid stone. Everyone is completely broke, and the very few individuals who possess any money have absolutely zero intention of trusting a 14-year-old kid with a single dime. Faced with no other options, you officially drop out of school and begin humping heavy shipping crates at the crowded central market. Your spine screams in agony under a physical workload that weighs significantly more than your entire body. At the conclusion of a brutal day, they hand you a measly 100 pesos for your labor. You rush back home, dying to show your mother the hard-earned cash, only to find her completely out cold on the floor. Her internal clock is rapidly ticking down. In total desperation, you beg your manager for an advance on your wages, but he simply laughs directly in your face. In his cold world, empathy is viewed as nothing more than a terrible financial investment. Pushed to absolute limits, you notice a small flyer taped to a nearby lamppost, advertising instant cash with no credit checks and no questions asked. It stands as your absolute last move. You head straight to the listed address, stepping into a heavily smoke-filled back room. The local loan shark flashes a sharp, dangerous grin and offers to hand over the 5,000 pesos, but it comes attached to a brutal 50% weekly interest rate. As you read through the fine print of the verbal agreement, you realize that having no property or house to use as collateral is not a problem for them. They are perfectly content to collect your biological assets instead. If you fail to make your payments on time, they will simply come to harvest a kidney or a cornea, though they generously let you choose which specific organ you would prefer to keep. You officially sign your soul over to the devil and use the money to pay for the immediate medical procedure. The surgeons do their absolute best, but your mother's body simply quits on her. She passes away that very same night. Grief, however, is a luxury that the desperately poor simply cannot afford. Before you even have a chance to shed a tear for your mother, the very first loan payment is officially due. You find yourself completely short on cash. The collectors do not offer any condolences or pity. Instead, they deliver a brutal physical beatdown that leaves you spitting out teeth onto the pavement. Then comes the final, terrifying ultimatum. You have exactly 1 week to deliver the full principal amount plus the accumulated interest, or they will seize your little sister as the final payment, selling her directly into a human trafficking ring. Just when you are on the verge of selling your soul to the lowest bidder, out of pure panic, a complete stranger slides up to you with an unexpected job offer. The gig requires no resume and no professional references. All the recruiter wants is someone small, agile, and flat out desperate for immediate cash. A single week of work pays more than enough to completely wipe out your debt with the moneylenders. Because you have lived in this gritty neighborhood your entire life, you know exactly what the job entails. You will be smuggling illicit gear directly across the border. If luck is on your side, you get paid a fortune. If your luck runs out, you end up as nothing more than another anonymous skeleton buried deep in the desert sands. You look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself the oldest, most common lie in the entire criminal handbook. You're only doing this just this once. In theory, the logistics of the gig are incredibly simple. You are operating as a mule. The operations manager drives you out to the mouth of a hidden, narrow cave. The opening is so incredibly tight that only a severely malnourished 14-year-old could ever hope to squeeze through it. For the first time in your life, your hunger actually provides you with a distinct competitive advantage in the local labor market. They tightly strap a heavy backpack to your shoulders. Your core mission is to crawl through the pitch-black caverns, carefully following a designated trail of marked guide rocks. You eventually pop out on the absolute opposite side of the border. A massive surveillance tower looms ominously against the horizon in the distance. You creep quietly through the thick desert brush, completely paralyzed with fear. Every single tiny twig that snaps under your weight sounds like a deafening 12-gauge shotgun blast echoing right in your ear. You trek for 3 grueling miles until you locate a specific dead tree that serves as the official drop-off point. You dump the package, turn around, and completely vanish into the shadows. No one sees you, and no one greets you. You are a total logistics ghost. The operation turns out to be suspiciously easy. For 7 consecutive days, you successfully dodge Border Patrol agents like an absolute professional, relying heavily on your compact size and sharp street smarts. The cash begins to stack up quickly. You successfully clear the entire debt, the loan sharks back off, and your sister is finally safe. You start feeling like the main protagonist of a gritty action movie, completely full of pride and relief. You head over to the middleman's office to officially put in your 2 weeks' notice, telling him it was an absolute pleasure doing business, but that you are now heading straight back to the straight and narrow path. You honestly believe this criminal gig is just a temporary summer job, like driving for a food delivery app, where you can simply tap a button to end your shift and log off whenever you feel like it. But the cartel recruiter just gives you a slow, fatherly smile that completely chills your bones to the core. He calmly pulls out his phone and displays a high-resolution photograph taken just this morning, showing your little sister walking into her school, smiling and totally clueless. He then calmly explains the organization's strict human resources policy. In this particular industry, there is no such thing as a voluntary resignation. He notes that you possess real talent, and wasting raw talent is considered a fireable offense, literally. You know far too much now, the secret routes, the operations, the faces, and the inner workings of the system. You are no longer just a temporary worker. You are a fixed asset on the company's permanent balance sheet. The new terms are simple and completely non-negotiable. You keep working for the syndicate indefinitely, or your little sister suffers a tragic, fatal accident on her walk home from school. That is when the reality check hits you harder than a speeding freight train. You realize your sudden success did not buy your freedom at all. If anything, you just proved to them that you are far too profitable to ever be set free. You successfully paid off your initial debt, but you just signed a lifetime contract with your own blood. It turns out there is absolutely no unsubscribe button in hell. 3 months later, the cave smuggling route collapses both metaphorically and literally. Federal agents bust the operation during another kid's shift, and he ends up locked away in juvenile detention. You survive the raid by pure statistical luck. Cartel management notices that you possess something the other disposable crash test dummies completely lack: an actual brain. They decide you are far too valuable to spend the rest of your life crawling through the mud like a beetle. You officially get promoted, receiving a brand new burner phone, a strategic vantage point, and a shiny new corporate title. You are now a falcon. Your daily job is to act as the cartel's primary eyes and ears on the street. For your average neighborhood kid, this would be incredibly boring work, but you are not average. You apply the exact same intense academic focus that used to earn you straight A's in school. You systematically map out federal patrol patterns, learn to spot unmarked law enforcement cars by the highly specific wear patterns on their tires, and construct encrypted alert codes that no one else can crack. Your logistical efficiency skyrockets by 200%. The local plaza boss calls you into his private office personally, handing you a massive cash bonus while looking you in the eye and saying 3 magic words, "Good job, son." Those words hit your psyche harder than any street drug ever could. Ever since your mother passed away, absolutely no one has told you that you are worth a damn, and no one has looked at you with an ounce of real respect. Suddenly, the blood money is buying your sister brand new clean sneakers and putting hot premium meals on the family table. You naturally start to rationalize the hustle, telling yourself that you are a provider, a protector, and a legitimate businessman. The ambient fear completely evaporates, replaced by something far more toxic, pure pride. You are actively starting to love the game. It all goes down on a stormy night. A rival crew decides to launch a hostile takeover of your turf, utilizing high-caliber lead instead of high-priced corporate lawyers. You and your sister get caught directly in the crossfire while walking home. You desperately try to shield her body with your own, but the laws of physics are entirely cold, and bullets do not possess a moral compass. A stray round, fired by some brainless idiot who is not even aiming properly, rips directly through your sister's chest. Time hits the absolute brakes. The sound of the falling rain blurs into a chaotic distortion of screams and distant sirens. You are completely frozen, kneeling out in the blood-soaked mud, staring blankly into her empty, lifeless eyes. Your brain simply unplugs from reality. You find yourself waiting for a mercy shot, genuinely wanting to die right there on the pavement, but death rejects you. A crewmate violently drags you by your collar out of the direct line of fire, just seconds before a stray grenade turns your exact spot into a smoking crater. You survive the ambush, but the innocent kid who once wanted to be a politician died right there on that sidewalk. You spend 3 full days staring blankly at a wall in total unbroken silence. When you finally stand back up, you are no longer an employee looking for validation or approval. The sadness has completely evaporated, replaced by a solid block of ice. You swear a blood oath on her grave that you will not seek justice, because justice is nothing more than a luxury reserved for the top 1%. You're looking for pure vengeance, and you will not stop until you have completely wiped their entire bloodline off the face of the earth. You decide that if you are forced to be a monster, you might as well become the smartest one in the room. You begin studying the art of war with the exact same relentless grind you once used for your high school midterms. Your rise through the criminal underworld is completely meteoric. Within 2 short years, you become a regional manager, and by the age of 30, you are officially crowned the youngest deputy director in the entire history of the organization. In the legal corporate world, you would require an MBA and 20 long years of brown-nosed bootlicking just to get a glimpse of that corner office. Here, job openings happen every single time a senior executive catches a bullet directly to the face. It is a brutally efficient meritocracy. When the old boss drops dead from a sudden heart attack, all hell breaks loose across the syndicate. The other lieutenants immediately choose brainless, loud violence, but you choose sophisticated politics. You understand a fundamental truth that they overlook. Bullets can kill people, but politics can kill entire organizations. Instead of purchasing more military hardware, you decide to buy a presidential candidate. You locate an ambitious politician with sky-high goals and absolutely zero morals, and you present him with a massive investment offer. You single-handedly bankroll his entire political campaign with unlimited, untraceable dark money, and in return, he hands you the literal keys to the kingdom the exact second he wins the election. It stands as the perfect symbiosis between organized crime and legalized crime. With the absolute power of the state on your side, you kick off your own sophisticated public relations campaign. You use the influx of blood money to build state-of-the-art schools, modern parks, and pristine hospitals, paving the streets of your old, impoverished neighborhood. The local public starts actively calling you a savior, and you open a massive medical clinic named directly after your late mother. You tell yourself that you are finally living out your childhood dream of helping the poor, but deep down, a quiet voice whispers the terrifying truth. You are not helping anyone. You are just buying cheap public loyalty and laundering your heavy conscience with bricks and mortar. You have finally become the politician you always dreamed of being as a child, except your mandate is built entirely on dead bodies instead of democratic ballots. With absolute political power in one hand and military muscle in the other, wiping out your remaining competition stops being a bloody war and turns into a simple administrative task. You officially ascend to the throne as the undisputed CEO of crime, the big boss, and your very first executive order is deeply personal. The rival crew that murdered your little sister does not get a single day in a court of law. Some accidentally catch a lethal bullet during routine police traffic stops, while others simply evaporate without a trace inside maximum security penitentiaries. It is cold, calculated revenge, ironically funded by the very taxpayers you are now claiming to protect. You keep your end of the corporate deal, and your political puppet successfully wins the national election. Now, you possess the actual president of the nation on your payroll, making him your most expensive employee, but he is incredibly efficient. With total legal immunity, you start playing God. You use the dirty cash to erect state-of-the-art facilities across your old stomping grounds, and the public worships the ground you walk on, calling you their grand benefactor. Outwardly, you're living the childhood dream. But every single night, staring out at your vast empire from a bulletproof balcony, one doubt eats you alive from the inside out. Are you building these hospitals out of the genuine kindness of your heart, or are you just erecting massive concrete monuments to drown out the overwhelming guilt of becoming the exact same monster who killed your father? You are a saint standing on a massive mountain of bones. Right when you think you have officially won the game, you receive the world's most brutal pink slip. A massive military task force suddenly surrounds your private estate. Your chief partner, the president, has decided that you are a dangerous loose end that needs to be snipped to polish his international image on the global stage. He sells you out completely, but he made a critical rookie mistake. He forgot that in the criminal underworld, loyalty is an absolute myth, but blackmail is a guarantee. You were always 2 steps ahead of him. For years, you kept the physical receipts, meticulously recording every single meeting, every bribe, and every dirty handshake. You do not go down with empty hands. Before you attempt to ghost, you trigger your ultimate insurance policy, leaking terabytes of encrypted documents, videos, and audio clips directly to the international press. The evidence proves that the government is, in reality, just a wholly owned subsidiary of your cartel. The scandal goes completely nuclear worldwide. The president goes from the royal palace to a cold federal jail cell in under 24 hours. But for you, simply seeing him behind bars is nowhere near enough. Treason must always be paid for in blood. You send one final executive order to your last remaining loyalists deep inside the system, and the ex-president suffers a tragic accident in the prison showers, with the entire country burning in the political chaos you created and your enemies buried in the ground. You feel like an absolute genius. You head straight for the coast with $100 million in cash and a fake passport, completely ready to take your golden parachute and disappear into a peaceful retirement. You honestly believe you are the master architect of your own destiny. You pull up to the pier in the pouring rain, waiting for the boat that was supposed to be your one-way ticket to a fresh start in Europe. But instead of a ship captain, you are greeted by a heavily armed tactical squad. It was not the high-tech surveillance drones or the satellites that tracked you down. It was a devastating inside leak. Out of the shadows steps your right-hand man, the young protege you personally raised like your own son. He looks at you with zero remorse in his eyes, having already cut a highly profitable deal with the incoming administration. You're just the peace offering now, the toxic asset that needs to be liquidated for the new regime to take over. In the corporate boardroom, they call it restructuring. In the streets, it is just a knife in the back. The subsequent trial is a massive televised media circus, but the final verdict was signed, sealed, and delivered long before you ever walked into the courtroom. Capital punishment. As you are strapped tightly to the execution gurney and that cold needle pricks your skin, time suddenly starts to fracture. Your entire life hits the rewind button. You see the massive skyscrapers you built crumble into dust. Your enemies rise from the grave, and the blood flow right back into your little sister's veins. Suddenly, You're 14 years old all over again, standing right in front of that lone shark flyer on the lamppost, completely heartbroken and flat out broke. You wonder what would have happened if you had taken a different path, and at what exact moment the innocent kid who wanted to save his neighborhood turned into the monster that burned it down. As the darkness swallows you whole, the final irony hits home. This entire empire, all this death, and all this agony was just the accumulated interest on a 5,000 peso debt. That completely wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is a work of fiction, but somewhere out there, someone is living through this exact nightmare right this second. I hope you got some serious food for thought out of this story. If you did, drop a comment below and let me know what your biggest takeaway was. I have more deep dives like this coming your way, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. See you in the next one.